It's Dan Kavanagh here. I'm the founder at Ignition Search. Welcome to the webinar. I'm going to discuss with you search trends in 2020. But before we kick off into that, just a little bit of housekeeping. The webinar will last about 20 minutes or so. I'm going to leave 10 to 20 minutes at the end for anyone that wants to do a quick FAQ. There's going to be a couple of handouts that will be downloadable at the relevant points also. Now, there's quite a few of you on. You will notice you've got a chat message box just to your right. Feel free to fire in questions as we go. I'll do my level best to answer them if I can, although that will, of course, require some multitasking on my part. Anything I don't get back to you on, I will answer directly to you over email. If we get a whole bunch of questions on the same topic, I will just probably drop off the slides just to answer those. So it'll be reasonably informal. So without further ado, here's just a list of what I want to talk about right now. So first thing is I'm going to touch on a brief history of search, what the search engines are looking for. I know we have a temptation as humans, and particularly in the realm of SEO, to go heading off into the sunset looking for the next new thing, and we forget about the basic building blocks of a good strategy and what the search engines are actually there to achieve, and what they're actually looking for. So that'll move me nicely through into what Google's looking for now, the things that we think are going to be really important in 2020. I've kind of distilled this down into three items, which is depth of content, the importance of UX, and also artificial intelligence. I mean, I could have probably still be talking in mid-June if if I go into everything I want to discuss. But as I say, I've condensed it down to about 20 minutes. I think these are the three most important, the most overlooked, and the most exciting areas of search in 2020. So, as I say, we first have to kind of take a little step back and look at what the search engines are actually trying to achieve right now. This is my attempt at trying to explain the process of what the search engines are. So the little red dots there on the left, they represent pages on the internet. Now, there are well over 60 billion pages today live in Google's index. They're just ones that are live in the index. There are many, many more that are live on the internet but not indexable, i.e. not crawlable, that Google for whatever reason might have deemed irrelevant. Now, Google is the market leading search engine in the UK, as you're probably aware, but Google is trying to deliver a customer service to its customers. The people don't often think of themselves as being a customer of Google, but we've probably already been customers of Google, every single one of us today, just by typing something in. And what we're effectively trying to do is we're looking to Google to give us the most relevant website or web page according to what we've just typed into the interface. And traditionally, it does that through giving us the search engine results pages, or the SERPs there. Now Google and the other search engines historically have done a fairly bad job of this. SEO people, website owners, since the search engines began, have been trying to game Google's system. And that has meant they've been tinkering with Google's customer service. So the net result has been Google has been losing customers, other search engines have been losing customers. Google is now down to about 88% market share in the UK. It was 98 10 years ago. And Google makes 97% of its revenue through paid search activity. So the last thing Google wants is to lose its customers. So Google is striving to make its customer experience better. And as I say, not many people think about Google trying to do that. Now, the two largest parts of the algorithm, or certainly the most important parts historically, have been the Panda and Penguin updates. Panda deals with content, which I'm going to talk about today, and Penguin deals with links. So when we're looking at content, effectively, Google is wanting to prioritize all pages that demonstrate the principles of EAT, which is here. Now, EAT is not a new thing. It's not like a current buzzword. It's been around for a long time. And it stands for expertise, authority, and trust. So in the context we're talking about today, expertise is simply looking at how good is your content. Does it meet users' needs, and was it written by a proven expert? When it comes to authority, is your website seen as authoritative? Is the author of that content seen as authoritative? Now, this can mainly be achieved from websites that link to you, but can also be done by paying attention to different content types, of which there are a myriad. We're not just talking about articles here. Your content could take the form of a white paper, an FAQ, a table of stats, an authority quote, an interactive map. It could be video. It could be anything. What it is not is a very thin, quickly written, key phrase stuffed article. I'll come back to that point in a moment. And then the final part of it is trust. So is your website trustworthy? Can the users establish this both on their page and away from that page? And then correspondingly, can the search engines also establish this authority? So this isn't really reinventing the wheel. If you step outside the context of online, the principles of EAT are not bad principles anyway. If you were seeking to attract more customers or sell more products, get more interest in your services, establishing the fact that you're an expert and you're authoritative and you're trustworthy is not a bad start anyway. So this really isn't a groundbreaking new marketing science. It's just practical best practice. And forever and a day, internet marketers, SEOs, website owners have been flooding the internet with low quality, poorly written, key phrase stuffed filth. This is the in tray of filth. It's this thin content that you see on the left hand side here. The blog was born in about 2005, shortly after Matt Cutts at Google had come on record and said one of the things that Google is looking for is frequency of content. So as is typical in the industry, everyone just disappeared down a rabbit hole of trying to produce volume, and therefore not really thinking about what they're writing about, not really thinking about their customers, not engaging with any important people in the journey of developing content. So expert content on the right has been left firmly at the door. No one's been doing it. Google's caused some of its own problems by exponentially increasing the number of web pages available than it now has to plow through. So it's even more difficult to find expert content, but this is where we should be focusing. So from 2012, bear in mind that Google's 21 this year, has not been around for that long really, but only in the last 8 years or so has Google really been moving toward becoming this sort of semantic entity. Now, I could focus on a lot of parts of Google's algorithm, but I just want to talk to you very quickly about these 6 because these are all grouped together in a theme, and it's really important for you to understand and connect up why these themes are important for your ongoing strategy and for your aspirations to rank in the search engines, to gain more traffic. So this is all about content. So Google Panda is specifically looking at a quality of content on the internet. Google Hummingbird quickly followed. It's called Hummingbird because it's really looking for speed and accuracy. So there's a greater emphasis placed on natural language queries. So Google's trying to consider context over individual key phrases. The entity knowledge expansion is Google using data to determine user intent behind searches. RankBrain, quite simply, is machine learning. Google has got more expertise on its subjects, more data now in order to make decisions. And the most recent update was Google BERT, which was toward the end of 2019. Thank God for the acronym, because I'm going to have to try and explain what that actually stands for. But it stands for Bidirectional Encoder Representations from Transformers. Everyone's thinking, oh, what on earth are you talking about? Well, this is effectively helping computers understand language more like humans do, i.e. with joining words like to and at. So Google is shifting toward being a machine that understands the language of humans. And that is an absolutely key point when we're going to discuss depth of content and UX and artificial intelligence. So effectively, Google is now operating on a completely different level, particularly in terms of answering questions. So if you see here, if we do a search now for 7 wonders of the ancient world, we get the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And obviously Sheffield is the 8th wonder of the ancient world. Either that, or I was in Sheffield when I performed this search. But what we have is an interesting result here based on location settings. Google, through data, is assuming that I'm in Sheffield, I've done a search for 7 wonders of the ancient world. I might be looking for things to do. So included in this search result now is a guide to Sheffield travel, a 3-star hotel, average cost. Obviously, we don't have any 5-star hotels up here. Upcoming events in Sheffield. So Google, through machine learning, is now giving us a better experience as a customer. And none better evidenced than the other search that I've got up here, which is for Mickey Mouse's dog. Even 3 or 4 years ago, Google would have had a hard time establishing what I actually mean by performing that search. It understands Mickey, it understands mouse, it understands dog, but mouse dog, it would have fallen over. But look at the top result, it's Pluto. It's also differentiated from the planet. So without even using that key phrase, Google is able to understand what information I'm looking for. So this is quite a seismic shift toward AI and toward Google understanding more. So without further ado, what is Google looking for right now? Well, it's looking for depth of content, it's looking for improved usability, and it's looking to tie all this together with AI. So before I go into the first example, and I'm going to actually give you a few tips in terms of the depth of content and the UX sections, but I just want to talk to you about the key ranking signals and how these are attributable to what's coming. So the key ranking signals for 2020, straight from the horse's mouth, Andrei Lipatsev, search quality senior strategist. I can tell you what they are. It's content and links pointing to your site. So Panda and Penguin, it was on one of the first slides. Panda's the bit we're really interested in today because it's about content. So again, you've got one of my little graphs here on the right. What I'm trying to demonstrate up the left channel is the impact on ranking and traffic, high to low. Those 2 big circles at the top are content and links. And then you've got a sliding scale of SEO techniques across the bottom. And the further you get into that, the less impact they have on rankings and traffic, quite simply. So if any of you listening have ever had one of those reports through saying, you know, your SEO score is only 40%, this is critical, you're not using H1 tags, this is a disaster, just forget about it, because most of that is about technical SEO that just does not impact the ability of your site to rank in the same way as content and links when it's done correctly. So here's an even more simplified version of that. Again, we've got the volume of key phrase search, low to high on the left. We've got commercial intent across the bottom, low to high. Broadly speaking, we're going to look after high volume, low commercial intent key phrases with link building. So this could be for us, it could be SEO or AdWords management. It could be a bifold door. It could be a mobile phone review. What we've got across the bottom is more long tail search, where there will be fewer searches, but these evidence people who are perhaps nearer the back end of their own buying cycle. They're they've done their research. We want to pick them up all along the way, but we're looking at expert content as low volume of key phrase research, but high commercial intent, because this is where you can start to steal a march on your competition, because the gaps in your competitor strategies are going to be around depth of this expert content and UX, which is why I think they're the most important things for you to consider as website owners for 2020. And just to further reiterate that point, if I need to, this is just a sort of indication as to just how important content is. So what I've got here, just to explain this graph quickly, is we've got a local website, obviously just wants to trade in Sheffield or London or Edinburgh, wherever it is. We've got SMEs, which most of you fall into this category, so nationally trading. We've got e-commerce, we've got a few of you e-commerce on here as well. And then we've got enterprise size websites. So that's your Amazons, your Dells, your Apples. You can see that content and links, the grey and the black, are highly critical for everyone until you start hitting enterprise level. Their tech SEO starts to come into its own. We can see here the quote from Will Critchlow, who's a founder of Distilled and a Moz associate. As many as 30 or 40% of the common recommendations in these classic tech audits make no difference whatsoever. Content there, the grey line, is still absolutely key, even to enterprise level. They understand the importance of content and getting this right. So let's look at depth of content. And this is content that you are going to publish or have published on your website. So it covers your homepage, your main category pages, your main product pages. It covers all the pages within your site that you have aspiration to rank. And it's a prime opportunity for us to demonstrate the principles of EAT at each step of the way. So to really kind of condense this down, our view is that there are three main sort of pillars of search ranking. So these items are what the search engines are looking for in order to rank your content. So the first one is context. This is kind of the easy one to do. So what are you writing about? Who are you to write about this content? You know, what is the subject of this? It's reasonably straightforward. Then comes relevance. This is a little more tricky, because this is where you've got to have your key phrase research done. You've got to have researched your topics. You've got to think laterally about the commercial intent behind these key phrases. So this is not as straightforward as just then writing loads of features and benefits about your product or about your service. But most sites can, broadly speaking, get this almost right, which you would expect, because you would expect them to be authoritative on their own subject and knowledgeable about it. The really difficult bit is the quality at the top. And this is where the depth comes into it, where you are covering your topics in detail. Okay, and as a site owner, you're aiming to hit this little sweet spot between these three main factors. If you're missing any one of these, you're missing the sweet spot, and you're relying effectively on other websites, i.e. your competition, being in a very similar position to you. And therefore, if you've got a big, well-established competitor, they are going to bully you with PageRank. Okay, but this does not have to be this way, because this section and the one in UX is where we start to identify chinks in the armor of your competitors, where you can start to steal a march by identifying their weaknesses and playing to that as a strength. So tip number one for depth of content: what does Google really think your content is actually about? So bear in mind what I was saying earlier, those six boxes of rank brain and BERT and everything. Google's not hiding the fact it's looking at natural language. So it offers this free API. I'll post a link to this at the end of the talk. But effectively, you can load every page on your website one at a time into this tool, and Google will tell you what it thinks your page is about. So I've just done this for a page, a website design page for a nationally renowned web design company. Now they're a powerhouse in the field of web design, but lo and behold, I've just pumped their page into this API tool, and this is what Google thinks their website design page is about. Top one thinks that the page is talking about a person. They're talking about their clients first and foremost through case studies on this page. Okay, Google is not thinking, well, this is about web design. Top answer is clients. Number two is website. Number three is solutions. Number four is web development. You can see actually that none of the first 10 things that Google thinks that page is about is actually what that page is about. The page is about website design. Google doesn't think it's about website design. Lo and behold, their website design page does not rank on page one, whereas a lot of their other services dominate the top spots on page one. This is a chink in their armor, because what it's allowed, it's allowed smaller, more nimble web design firms to steal a march and dominate some of those rankings way ahead of them. So they're not allowing them to bully them with PageRank and the kudos and the fact they've been around for 25 years. So this is our first top tip is you can go to this tool. It's free. Just go and do a bit of experimentation and playing around. There'll be no room for ego on this, because you might actually be quite surprised what Google thinks your pages are about. But that gives you a starting point from which to rethink the depth of your content, the reason why you're writing this content. I'll come on to the UX aspects of it shortly. So in terms of, hang on, there's quite a few asking about this tool. Let me just go back to it. Well, I will send this out as an actual link. Okay, and you'll be able to get a transcript of the webinar as well, so don't worry. I don't want to send it out right now, because I know what I'm like. I'll just be putting all my pages in and having a look. But we've got about 10 minutes to run, so there'll be plenty of time at the end and afterward. So moving through into UX. So what we mean really is usability. Okay, now you would think it would be a given, but a lot of websites, frankly, are not fit for purpose in terms of giving your users the right experience, giving them information in the right order, in a way that it is digestible. There's a temptation to sort of crowd a lot of pages, but effectively, what I've got with the two examples here is the same content, just positioned differently. You don't actually need to see what this content is about. You can see that the right-hand one is much easier to read. So a specific focus on UX means that Google can fully reward your site, because at purely a content level, by making things easy to read, you also make it easy for search engines to crawl and to understand. The definitions of a good user experience, well, they're kind of exhaustive, but I've sort of broken it down into a top four. But each high quality page must demonstrate good UX. So explanatory page headings or headings with questions, time to answer being a real focus of the page. This is the depth that I'm talking about in the previous slides. A clear presentation, UX and design, and ensure that the content's created for a beneficial purpose. Don't just slap your product pages up or your service pages and list all the features. You might get as far as benefits. Let's just have a little step back. There is a plethora of information at your fingertips in terms of key phrase information, to find out what your visitors, your potential customers, are actually interested in. Laying it out easily is kind of a no-brainer, but we see many examples of poor UX. So what defines a low quality page? Well, distractions from ads, generally poor UX, irritations, etc. And My big bugbear at the moment is this sort of super menus, and you try to click into a subcategory and it keeps disappearing. That's happening a lot. There's live chat that constantly pops up over content you're trying to read. That's the kind of thing that's going to, lose you a lot of friends and not allow your site to realize its full potential with Google. If you're leaving questions unanswered or you're giving poor responses, again, it's going to negatively impact the UX on your site. Different text size, positioning, and styling. Anything that pushes the main content below the fold or down the page. Big hero banners that don't really say much. You haven't got calls to action. They might be wonderfully aesthetic, but you're actually missing the trick in terms of how to better use that real estate. So tip number 2 is, excuse me, tip number 2 is to pick a page on your site. Now, I would pick a page that perhaps loiters around page 2 or is a secondary page. Don't pick your highest ranking, your most productive page, but pick another one and change the layout only on that page. Leave the content exactly as it is, but think about improving the UX and sit back and watch the traffic profile for 60 days. This is a snapshot of a client page that we've just done this for. We changed their second best-selling product page, and we've got a year-on-year example here. It's the same page, it's the same content. We improved the UX, and it resulted in year-on-year 40% more traffic just from a simple UX tweak. If you look along, those of you that have e-commerce, you attribute a value to each page. The page value went up from just under a £5 to just under a £10, so doubled effectively in terms of entrances into the site. So not only are they getting more traffic, but it's having a corresponding knock-on impact to their revenue. And as I say, it was simply improving the UX on that page. So it wouldn't be an SEO webinar without a little nod to the geek. And this one's for you, Husey. Is if we're looking for weaknesses in your competitor strategies, then depth of content and UX is certainly where their armor's weak. It'll be at the neck, it'll be under the arms, so you can compete against the big boys, and don't let them bully you with page rank, because they will not be paying attention to these items. We can guarantee it. We see it time and time again. Okay, so moving into just the last section, we've got 3 or 4 more minutes, just a couple of quick slides on artificial intelligence, because this is what kind of sews everything up. The search engines are moving toward this. Every change is to try and allow them to think more like humans. So whether this is totally frightening to us or not, it is nevertheless here to stay. So AI software effectively is able to analyze and interpret changes to the search engine algorithms. Okay, this can also augment your research in terms of gaining insights onto topics and subtopics that your content needs to cover in order for you to gain authority in your industry, not just to demonstrate to your visitors, but to demonstrate to the search engines, so that you rank higher for a broader suite of relevant key phrases. You get more traffic, you'll win more work, you'll sell more products. Now, we've invested in an AI tool and developed it, and we call it Yellowfish. What this does for us here is it draws on human experience. It looks at thematic research, it looks at user intent and behavior, and it looks at competitive analysis. So we can help identify where these weaknesses in your competitors' strategies are. Without doing this, what's going to result is wasted time and missed opportunities. We're really into identifying where we can sensibly spend time and spend budget in order to gain our clients traction within the search engines, certainly against competitors. So if you want any more information on yellowfish or anything else that I've discussed, just drop us a line. I'm going to hang on here just on the live chat for another 10 minutes. As I said, a transcript will come out anyway. I'm just going to share with you the buyer's guide. So that should have clicked up on your site now to download. I'm also going to share the natural language link. That should be pinging across now. Okay. And that concludes the webinar. Thank you ever so much for attending. As said, some of you know us, some of you don't know us. Any questions, fire them off in the live chat now. Send us an email, give us a call. I'd be happy to talk to you. Thanks very much.